hello, hello. Welcome back to Down the Rabbit Hole. My name is Brittany, and today we're going to be talking about a very famous, kind of new money family. Um, Also kind of old money as well. But this is a very famous family. As Caroline Astor recalled, they are a swelled family. Now, you're probably thinking, who am I talking about? Well, before I jump into that, if you're new here, hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications. Also, please subscribe. Help a girl out. I also want to say Merry Christmas. I am trying to get through these episodes as much as I can because I have a very important episode I want to get out on Christmas, um, regarding Christmas for Down the Rabbit Hole. So it's going to be a very famous battle in history. But with that being said, why don't I jump right into this episode as we talk about the Vanderbilt family. So, with that being, so who are the Vanderbilts? What are some famous Vanderbilts? Anderson Cooper is a famous Vanderbilt. Gloria Vanderbilt is a Vanderbilt. She had her own jeans company. So, here's the thing. The Vanderbilt family, they're an American family who gained prominence during the Gilded Age. And I love the Gilded Age. We all know that. So, the last episode, one episode, I talked about the 400, Gilded Age etiquette and traditions that we still do today. So, let's talk about a swell family, as Caroline Astor would put it. And as I said, the Vanderbilt family is this family, and their success began with the shipping and railroad empires of Cornelius Vanderbilt, and the family expanded into various other areas in the industry and philanthropy. Now, Cornelius' descendants went on to build grand mansions in Fifth Avenue in NYC, luxurious summer cottages in Newport, Rhode Island, the Palatial Baltimore House in Asheville, North Carolina, and various other opulent homes. And the families also built Berkshire cottages in the western regions of Massachusetts. I want to go to Massachusetts so bad. But in there, this includes the Import Lenox, which is Lenox and Stockbridge, Massachusetts. Now, the Vanderbilts were once the wealthiest family in the U.S., and Cornelius Vanderbilt was the richest American until his death in 1877. And after that, his son William Henry Vanderbilt acquired his father's fortune and was the richest American until his death in 1885. Now, their prominence lasted until the mid 20th century when when the family's 10 great um, Fifth Avenue mansions were torn down, and more other Vanderbilt houses were sold and turned into museums, in which they have been referred to as the fall of the House of Vanderbilt. I keep wanting to say the fall of the House of Usher. Does anybody remember that short story? Because I do. I remember reading it. It's like, okay, that makes me want to. Okay, I cannot. You're not talking about Poe or anything like that right now. That's dark academia. Anyway, but yeah, so this basically when they were selling these houses and stuff, it got referred to as the fall of the House of the Vanderbilts. And the branches of the families are found all over the U.S. Um, East Coast and contemporary descendants include American art historian John Wildemer, journalist Anderson Cooper, actor Tim D. Opulent, magician John P. Hammond, screenwriter John Vanderbilt, and the Duke of Marlborough, James Spencer Churchill. So let's talk about the history of this famous family for a moment. Um, so the progenitor of the Vanderbilt family was Johns Artson, who was a Dutch farmer from the village of the Bilt in the Netherlands, and who immigrated to a Dutch colony, the New Netherlands. Because you gotta remember, New York was not New York. New York City was not New York City. It was New Netherland at one point, and it was he was a indentured servant of the Van Cushion family in 1650 in the name of Jan's village. And in the genitive cases, when most of the Dutch van to create the Vanderbilt and would evolve into Vanderbilt. When the English took control of the New Amsterdam, which is now Manhattan, the family is associated with the Dutch patrician Vanderbilt, and his great grandson, Cornelius, began the rise of the Vanderbilt dynasty. And he was the fourth of nine children, both in the Staten Island family of modest means. Though his paternal great great grandmother Abigail Safford, he descends from the Republic of Saul's President Jan Jazin and his son Anthony Jazin Van Sales. They were among the earliest arrivals of the 17th century New Amsterdam, and a number of documents um, dating back to the period. And Anthony is described as tawny, and his mother was of Berber origin, of Corregina of the Kingdom of Nursia. Cornelius Vanderbilt um, would leave school at the age of 11. It was a different time back then, too, so let's keep that in mind. But he would leave school at the age of 11, go on to a building and shipping um, company, shipping railroad empire during the 19th century, and would make him one of the wealthiest men in the world. And starting with a single boat, he grew his fleet until he was competing with Robert Fulton for dominance over New York's waterways. And his energy and eagerness earning him the nickname Commodore and the U.S. Navy title for captain of the small task force. Um, Fulton's company would establish a monopoly and trade in and out in New York Harbor. Now, Vanderbilt's based is New Jersey at the time and flouted in the law. Steaming and the outs of the harbor under a flag that read, New Jersey must be free. He also hired the attorney, Daniel Webster, to argue his case before the U.S. Supreme Court, where he won, thereby establishing an early precedent in the U.S. for the first laws of interstate commerce. Now, while many Vanderbilt members have joined I butcher this word every time, Episcopal Church, Cornelius remained a member of the Moravian Church until his death, and the Vanderbilt family lived in Staten Island until the mid 1800s, where the Commodore built a house on Washington Place. Although he always occupied a relatively modest home, members of his family would use their wealth to build a magnificent mansion shortly before his death in 1877, and Vanderbilt would donate 100 million which would be equivalent to 29 million today, for the establishment of Vanderbilt University in Nashville. Okay, guys, I want to say something about Vanderbilt University real quick. That is my dream law school, but that's not what I want to say. Do y'all remember Alabama losing to Vandy this year? Okay. I still love that. I don't see how that was even possible this year. But the fact that they literally marched 4 miles to the Cumberland, for crying out loud, you can imagine how, just to dump that goalpost into the river, you can imagine how drunk they would be. In fact, that the police were escorting them too. Like, imagine, like, they were sore the next day. You could probably tell. But anyway, back to this episode. But the Commodore left the majority of an enormous fortune to his eldest son, William Henry Vanderbilt. Um, and William Henry, who outlived his father just by 8 years, increased the profit of the family's holdings, increased the reach of the New York Central Railroad, doubled the Vanderbilt wealth, and his he was the only heir to increase the Vanderbilt fortune, and he built the first of what would become many grand Vanderbilt mansions in Fifth Avenue. And William Henry appointed his first son, Cornelius Vanderbilt II, as head of the house. Now, Cornelius II built the largest private home in New York at at First West 57th Street, containing approximately 154 rooms designed by George B. Post, and he also built the breakers in Newport, Rhode Island. Now, his brothers, William Keesum Vanderbilt, also featured predominantly in the family affairs. Why does that name sound familiar? I probably talked about it before, so you might want to go back and watch the episode. But he also built a home on Fifth Avenue and is the great architecture of the Gilded Age, hiring the architects for the Grand Central Terminal, who also built Marble House and everything. Now, George Washington Vanderbilt II, the third and youngest son of William Henry Vanderbilt, And the youngest brother of Cornelius II would hire architectural Richard Morris Hunt and landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted to construct the Biltmore Estate in over 125,000 acres near Asheville. Now, the 250-room mansion of floor space is the largest house in the U.S. And while some of Cornelius Vanderbilt's descendants gained fame in the business, others gained many prominent ways, such as Alfred Gwen Vanderbilt, who was a passenger of the Lusitania, and she died when it sank. Alfred's eldest son from his first marriage, William Henry Vanderbilt III, was the governor of Rhode Island. His Alfred's second son, Alfred Jr., became a noted hero, horse breeder, and racing elder. William Keeson Vanderbilt, you remember that name? Yep. His son, Harold Sterling Vanderbilt, gained fame as a sportsman. He invented the contract form of bridge and won most of the coveted prize in yacht racing of the America's Cup in 3 occasions. Harold's brother, William Keeson Vanderbilt II, launched the Vanderbilt Cup for the auto racing. Cornelius Vanderbilt II's granddaughter, Gloria Vanderbilt, was a noted artist, designer, actress, author, and businesswoman. Now, I could do a whole episode on her, but I don't have the time to, and I'm pretty sure y'all don't want to hear me make this go deeper. But anyway, her Gloria's son, I mentioned him earlier, Anderson Cooper, is a Peabody Award member and an Emmy Award winning journalist and television producer. Cornelius Vanderbilt II's daughter, Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, was a sculptor, art patron, collector, and founder of the Whitney House of American Art. And in 1865, Commodore Cornelius Vanderbilt donated 45 acres of the property to the Moravian Church and Cemetery in Neuter on Staten Island. Now, later his son William Henry Vanderbilt would donate 4 acres, a further 4 acres, and the Vanderbilt family's mausoleum was designed in 1885 by architect Richard Morris and hunt the landscape of the Frederick Law Almanated. So, here's the question: are there any Vanderbilt legacies left? Well, goes to Vanderbilt University. As I said, I mentioned that earlier, and I'm like, yes. But here's the thing, like, imagine how sore they were. Okay, so that's it. Join me next time. I want y'all to have a Merry Christmas, and y'all have a great night.